Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. I'm Ray Sidney Smith.
And I'm Augusto Pinot.
And we're your hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 74, the commentary episode, our special commentary episode on the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked August 11th event. And we're recording this on August 12th, 2021. Of course, each week we read and review and discuss the productivity and related technology news headlines of the week. But when major productivity and related technology events happen, of course, we bring you these special commentary episodes to give you the latest on what's happening. And so today we've brought a special guest to do our special commentary episode, and we have Art Gelwicks. Art Gelwicks is a productivity and collaboration consultant. He's a blogger at theideapump.com and host of the Being Productive podcast, cross-platform podcast. And of course, he joins Augusto, myself, and Francis Wade each week on Productivity Cast. Welcome to Anything But Idle, Art.
Hey guys, if they keep doing these unpack things, I'm just going to have you introduce me as Mr. Samsung. We'll just go with that. So.
Yes. So we had a packed, unpacked event yesterday, and let's get started with the show. Augusto, where did you think about the show in terms of its production value and your overall impression? And we'll go from there.
I've been saying on the last shows that Samsung has been grabbing the Apple playbook and copying it. And I will say on this one, maybe even improving it in the sense that they are not secretive. I mean, there was nothing that came on the show that we were saying, oh, wow, we did not expect this one. No, really, we knew almost every detail. But they came organized. They came with message, the clear message they wanted to send for a product that people, at least the geeks, had already chance to look and to think and to read. So that also allowed people to be more focused on the message they're giving instead of trying to think, oh, do it have? No, you already knew everything that it had. So now you can listen to their message. So I think they're doing really good in there. It was a great show. It wasn't too long. Not everything fit in the show, but I think the three main parts were really clear. Now we're going to talk about the phone, and the phones were incredible. Now we're going to talk about everything really clear except the AirPods, as we said on the pre-show, the AirBuds. But everything else, it really seemed clear with the message. I really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's nice to see them taking advantage of the fact, and you can argue this one way or the other, intentionally leaking a lot of the specs and the things that the technorati want to hear beforehand, so that when they get into it, they're not spending time talking about 5 nanometer chips and things like that. That's all, inside baseball type of stuff. But to really spend as much time as they did digging into the 3 real points of focus around the 3 products, and that was one of the key takeaways I had, is that they did not overlap their messaging across the 3 products. Each one has a very clearly targeted purpose.
Correct.
And a targeted audience for it. And the audience may use 2 or 3 of the devices, no question there. They did touch on the ecosystem as they got towards the end of the presentation. But just the fact that they were very clear around why they were doing what they were doing, I think came across very well. There was one musical number in there that I'm like, okay, that must have been thought up really late at night on a couple of glasses of sake, because don't know what that was. But the rest of it was really good. So
I enjoyed also the diversity of people that they put in front of the audience this time. I felt like everybody who was on screen had a command not only of the products they were talking about, but were also I felt like the right people at the time for presenting those pieces of material. So I felt that was really interesting as well. Okay, so they started off the show what I think was their primary effort, which was the Galaxy Watch. What number are we at? 4?
4. Number 4.
So I got it right. So the Galaxy Watch 4. What did you think about their partnership with Google and the Wear OS and where they are going with the Watch 4?
I was a little bit surprised right away that that's what they led with. was the watch. But then again, that's been one of the most talked about things. I mean, the Fold and the Flip have been out for a couple of years now. The watch has been out, but not in this format, not in this design, not with these internals and not with this operating system. So it was getting a lot of chatter. But right away, they didn't bother with, it can do these apps, it's going to be Wear OS. They mentioned that, they're working with Google. It was deep on fitness, deep on health, immediately talking about things like O2 sensors and blood pressure and BIA and all of the different capabilities and design choices that they had made. For example, around redesigning the strap to pull the sensor closer to your arm and doing the engineering breakouts to show you how they changed the internals of the watch to make it more reliable for health, which is very different than what Galaxy did or Samsung did with their Galaxy line prior to the Actives for quite a long time, because they were supposed to be productivity watches. They were add-ons. They were mini phones. But now it's all in on the health aspect of it, which I think is great. Digging into the device itself, I think they've got a winner on their hands.
I hope they learn from the past. I was researching for the show. I learned that was one of the Galaxy 3s, I don't remember which one, had the ability to do blood pressure, but was never released in the United States because they didn't proceed to get the FDA approval or FDA didn't approval, one of the two things. And I hope with this one, they really do, so they can send that strong message that, hey, we are here. The thing that surprised me with the watch was they dropped iOS. As far as mentions and the research I did, they now said, no, we're going to stay compatible with Android. And if you want it compatible with your iPhone, fine, go and buy an Apple Watch. And that was really interesting to me that they dropped it that way.
I don't know that they've cut it off. I mean, everything that I've been looking at so far is it still supports the basic functionalities, message notifications, and that sort. But there's always been an assumption, and everyone that I know of, my son-in-law has a Galaxy Watch and an iPhone. There is some compatibility between the two, but it's not intending to be an Apple Watch. Right. By no stretch of the imagination. This is something that is designed to be the equivalent in this ecosystem, or in this case, almost superior to the current model structure. The design changes that they've made internal from an engineering standpoint are significant. They've gone from a 28 nanometer chip in the original designs to a 5 nanometer chip. That's a huge performance and power savings. They're talking about being able to have a 40-hour battery life on this watch. Well, that to me is epic. If I get 15 to 20 hours out of my watch, I'm just ecstatic. And that's out of a Tizen watch, which was optimized for that. The Wear OS watches, you're lucky if you got 10 hours in most cases. We could be looking, there's separate chips for the always-on display. We could be looking at legitimately having always-on display on the watches without significant battery drain. It sounds minor. It's something you would expect from a watch. But you're absolutely right. It's not minor. It's a big hurdle to cover. So when we look at the design of these watches, the visual appearance, I like the fact that they have the active design, which is the continuous glass front, or they have the classic design that has the rotating bezel. I think the rotating bezel is distinctive enough and usable enough that it made sense to keep it. But changes to as I said, to the band structure and to the configuration, the memory storage, it's got 1.5 mega RAM and I think it's 16 gig of storage on board, which is crazy on a watch. But if we think about their purpose, being able to pull down a Spotify playlist, download it to the watch and be able to take it with you, to be able to use apps that are written in written for Wear OS, you have to be able to load them. And if you go back to previous conversations we've had about Google pushing their developers to develop in multiple platforms, giving them actually a discount on the profit margin that Google takes out of the Play Store, going from 30% down to 15% if you develop on multiple platforms. Well, if I'm writing an app and now I can write it in a way that part of it works on a watch, that's going to put me into that class of getting more money. It makes it better for for Google, but it also makes it better for Samsung because Samsung says, hey, our watch does more and more now. So I did not hear anything in the presentation that turned me off about the device or said, oh yeah, they're selling me a bill of goods. All of it sounded good across the foot. And I'll admit, the next day I pre-ordered one. So I have one coming the end of August. I've had a Frontier 3 for years and it has served me well, but Samsung has a fantastic trade-in program right now for their old watches. And I couldn't walk away from it. Where will this be successful or fail? It'll be dependent on how good the health capabilities truly are, because we're going to see updates in the Samsung Health application. But it'll also be dependent on how much the app store increases for functionality and capabilities to the device. When we see more and more things expanding into the device itself and support of it, that I think is really going to be the differentiating factor. Will this become the next Apple Watch? No pun intended, but only time will tell.
I'm really looking forward to the active version. I think that's the right one for me, and I'm just waiting. I'm going to give October. I'll give it to October for Google to not announce the Pixel Watch, and then I'll probably buy the Galaxy Watch 4 Active Series. I think that's that one just matches what I currently have in terms of aesthetic and everything else like that. I do like the fact that it has an LTE option and just being able to untether and go. And while I'm not turned off by the idea or turned on by the idea of having music on the go in a mobile sense, like downloading to my on the fly, it still is kind of nice to have the option to be able to make and receive a phone call. If I go on a run, give a family member a call, and I don't mind having a conversation, kind of, them hearing me kind of run and having a conversation and catching up. It's good use of my time. I don't see myself being like, oh, I want to listen to Spotify while I'm running. I totally understand why others would, but I would download the music beforehand. That's just my nature. So, but I think based on the specs, based on pricing, everything that I looked at, this seems like the right watch at the right time. And I'm looking forward to playing around with it. So we'll see what happens.
I have very high hopes for it, especially around the health aspects of it. They focused heavily on the sleep tracking capability, which I am a very avid user of the sleep tracking on my watch currently. Plus, I'm very interested in this BIA, and I forget exactly what that means, but it's the body mapping for body composition mapping. Basically, it's much more accurate than other things. You can get scales that have that capability too. I like that idea. I like that approach. It's a good way to self-monitor. So. Well, like I said, I didn't hear any negatives, so at least not my
excitement. My excitement was how much they push into health, because really this thing, the watch, doesn't matter if you're talking about the Wear OS, you're talking about the Apple Watch. They have come from being we don't know to really be an incredible health companion, and I think this push will push both. As the tide goes up, every boat in the ocean will go up. As Samsung gets pushing and pushing and pushing, Apple will need to push. And I think that's exciting, because honestly, the last two releases, I mean, like, okay, but nothing really magical, because there is no need for something magical, because there is no other watch in the market until now. So I am excited about it.
The other thing that I think will drive this is, I'm praying that Samsung and Google finally merge or make much more compatible Samsung Health and Google Fit. Getting data between the two, sharing the data, and working with the applications has always been a painful process. I'm hoping this gets us over that hurdle and they work to common ground with that, and we can really start to reap the benefits of it. There was a lot of applications they showed in the product logo shots as to what's going to be available for it. And a lot of those applications are ones, I'll admit, that I use or have wanted to use and not been thrilled about their implementation on the watch. So I'm hoping to see that improves. So, watch, to me, I'd give them an A- right now.
Ooh.
And so that's the bioelectrical impedance analysis is
There you go.
impedance analysis is what you were talking about in terms of BIA. And they spent a good amount of time kind of explaining it and why it was important and that kind of thing. And I really liked the group challenge. And I didn't notice, did the group challenge require everybody in the family to have
Don't know.
Okay, to
Don't
have a
know.
Samsung watch, because that was my thing. I was like, that would be great. I would love to do that with my, there's a litter of us, so I have a lot of siblings, and so it would be great to be able to, encourage. I want to encourage them. There's nothing that I want to do in terms of being negative toward them about their health. I want to just improve and provide positive reinforcement. And I would love to do something like a group challenge with the family. But if everybody has to have Samsung, devices, then it's just really not going to happen.
Well, what we may see though, and this is a cross-platform type of thing, we may see developers write apps that are easier to write now because of Wear OS and the Google support for the development side, and also write it on the Apple side for the Apple Watch that can communicate across in the cloud. So then theoretically you could do those kind of together competitive things, something like a Map My Run type of application that would work much better on this improved Android platform, work with the Apple one, and then you could coordinate together. I don't think we're far off from that. I think developers will be very behooved to do that because that's where they'll see the maximum return on their development investment.
Yeah, and just to your point about the what was it? I lost my train of thought. You were talking about earlier. It'll come back to me as soon as we're done with recording. So, all right. So
I rarely have a point. So,
no, there was something on the tip of my tongue there, and it just lost it. So, final thoughts regarding the Galaxy Watch 4 and anything else there.
Like I said, I'm going to hold my judgment until September 2nd, after I've got the thing in my hand for a couple of days. I will throw out one thing, though. I did mention about their trade-in. Samsung is being very aggressive about this right now. So if you do have an Apple Watch and you're thinking about switching over, or if you've got a Samsung Watch already, go to the Samsung site, look at the pre-order process. I was able to get the entire thing down to $279 for the high-end classic model, stainless steel. The only thing it didn't have was LTE. So, and that was with a significant trade-in on the watch. So they're very aggressive about getting this device out there currently. And I think it's a good opportunity to take advantage of it.
And we will put a link on the notes on the show. So if you are interested in that, you can look at the show notes.
Yeah. And I'll be curious to see what Apple does next then. Because finally we may have a fight finally. It will be nice to finally have some true competition back in this space.
No. Again, I think that's the most exciting part for me about the episode. I will buy a Samsung Watch, most likely not. But the fact that a device is coming that I'm getting excited about it means that it gives me the hope that Apple now will look at this and say, oh, okay, we need to do something about it, instead of what we have been doing. That is like, okay, well, we are going to just put another one. And I have not been upgrading mine because there is nothing that they have come feature-wise that I say, okay, I want to have that.
Yeah.
So
if Apple wants to impress me, their next one more thing on their watch should be that it has a headphone jack.
35 millimeter, not
That's
thunder,
not going to happen.
not lightning. So we would go from the Watch 4 announcement, and then oddly they go to an opening with TM Rowe, the CEO of Samsung, introducing any notable items, tidbits that you picked up from his opening there, and then we'll go into the Z Fold and Z Flip.
It was the normal messaging that I've always gotten from it. I honestly didn't pay that close attention to that transition piece because I was still soaking up some of the watch piece itself. But it's one of those things. I like the way he sets up each of the sections, because so many of the other companies, when they do their rollouts, their CEOs, the high-end execs will be out there and they just belabor the point. TM Rowe seems to tee the ball up. He hands the driver to the next person and then he steps off really quick. I mean, he's only on there for a few minutes, and then the next person really picks up and goes with it. So there wasn't anything special in the messaging, but I don't think it broke up anything as to the delivery of the overall presentation.
Yeah, I didn't read anything into his language other than the fact that he wanted to make sure people understood the Samsung message, and that was this, if you're in the Samsung family of products, that you're going to have a seamless experience, and that they are working on innovation every day. And of course,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was the first time that they started to dance around the idea of ecosystem. They got all the way to the end of the presentation before I ever heard the word ecosystem. But you're right. During his interlude, he was setting the stage of, these are all individual products, but they're all better together.
Yeah.
Which I think we're going to hear from now on. I think Samsung has finally turned that corner and said, you know what? Just get all our stuff. Life will be happy.
But honestly, as an Apple user, that's the first time that if I will consider ever leaving the iPad ecosystem, Apple ecosystem, I will go for a Samsung. I will buy the Samsung laptop, the phone, the tablet, because I will get what I like the most about my Apple ecosystem. That is that I can copy on this iPad and paste on that MacBook over there.
So we go from that to then the announcement of the Z Flip 3. And
was it the Flip or the Fold first? I thought the Flip.
We did the Fold. We did the Fold. First, right?
The Fold.
Yeah, we did the Fold. So we went to the Fold. We're talking a 6.2 inch cover screen, and then it opens up to having this 7.6 inch screen that basically has been folded in half and then opens up to a full size 7.6 inch screen. What did you think about the Galaxy Z Fold 3, which is 5G, by the way? It's 5G and Wi-Fi 6E.
Well, the advantage is that we've seen Samsung's folded phone before. So that wasn't like, kind of thing. We wanted to see how they fixed the problems that it had. Some things that jump out at me right away. Before you even unfold it, that 6.2 inch wide screen is narrow. It's actually a fairly narrow device, tall, but narrow, which means you could literally use it one-handed for most people, which I thought was very interesting because I was having a hard time identifying any other products in their line that are at that price range that provide you that capability. Now, that being said, it's also thick because it's a doubled up screen, but it still has that nice capability of being able to work with it running around. The second part that I thought was interesting is when they actually opened it up, it did look smooth. It did have that feel. Yes, you could see in some shots there's still a crease. I think we will always have a crease for a number of years to come until the screen technology catches up. What fascinated me was the amount of time they took to explain how they got a pen to work with a screen that had that crease in it. And that, honestly, that's not something that really occurred to me. It's like, okay, yeah, now that you mention it, that would be a pain in the neck. And they talk about how instead of having one large digitizer under the screen, they actually have two, and they've changed the algorithms to be able to work with the two sides. They also spent an exceptional amount of time talking about how they changed the pen itself. I've been an S Pen user for years, with all the Note devices I've had, and I use it on Chromebook and on tablets. And they've changed the S Pen to now have a softer tip. There's a spring in it to absorb shock so it doesn't dent into the screen. Things that you initially look at and you go, okay, that's nice, but is it necessary? As someone who has used soft plastic screen protectors on my Note, I will tell you, yes, it absolutely is necessary, because there's nothing more distracting to have than having handwriting marks that stay in a soft screen. And those screens are still soft. I mean, it's not like it's hard plastic or glass. I mean, there's still some give to it because it's flexible. But from a layout wise, from a position wise, I liked when they opened it up. You saw them using it, the keyboard and the split configuration and the typing, but their focus on not only the quality of the large display and using that, it's an HD screen, being able to get that visual quality on the large images, but then take advantage of the fact that you technically have two screens and being able to split your work and actually split your work into thirds and quarters and work between those. You could get a real sense that they were positioning the Fold somewhat as a media consumption device, but much more as a high-end executive productivity device. I mean, it's got a price tag attached to it, no question about it.
Yeah, they were definitely pushing the productivity components there. I also am concerned about the screen, especially when you decide to put a screen protector either on that folding screen. I will be curious what third-party options are for a screen protector there, because, you know, just over time, that wear and tear on that screen is going to be problematical. And then, of course, screen protectors on the exterior, that Gorilla Glass, making sure that you can put a screen protector on that, and how that really rides, considering there's nothing protecting it but the glass. If you put a screen protector on it, then you have edging, and, you know, so you'd have to have really specialized exterior shielding on that. And that's just weird. That's a weird feel for me, and so I'd be curious how cases will work in that regard.
What's going to make and break it are the cases. Honestly, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't understand that phone. I understand the Flip, but the Fold, I didn't understood the Fold. It may be that I'm now starting to get old for technology, maybe, but that technology didn't. I don't know what I wanted to. I could not envision. The Flip I did, but the other one.
That was one of the first challenges, is looking at this device and go, okay, so what are the use cases? Where does this do things that I can't do anyplace else? And we talked about it a little bit in the pre-show. The closest thing to this device in the working space is actually the Surface Duo from Microsoft, where it's a dual screen Android layout, because then you're literally using that two mode configuration. There is a mode on this, on not only the Fold but on the Flip, called Flex mode. If we get one more F in here, I get the trifecta. If I can say that fast enough without embarrassing myself, that'll be even better. But the Flex mode allows you to turn it sideways, flip one half of the screen up, and then keep the bottom half of it down. So you can almost use it like a mini laptop. That, people are looking, oh yeah, that just looks, I'm sorry, that's a Scion 3A from years ago. That's a Windows CE Pocket computer from years ago. It's that configuration is back to visit us yet again. It's usable. It's not, I wouldn't try to write the Great American Novel on it, but you can respond to an email or two that way. So from a purpose standpoint, if I truly need to be mobile and I need a device that's going to give me near laptop power and capabilities, large screen consumption, and still fit in my jacket pocket, this is really the only one that meets all three of those criteria. Now, that said, how many people have all three of those as requirements? There's not a...
Yeah, just looking at it from that perspective, if I wanted to spend the cash on that kind of high-end device, I can see myself doing that. I looked at that leather case and I thought, it has a kickstand, a nice sturdy ability to flip that open into a full screen mode. It's smaller than, you know, I'm not going to take my iPad and put it in my pocket, not even iPad mini, right? I'm not going to try and walk around with that and a keyboard. But if I were going out on the road, hopping on a flight and wanted to really power through some email, power through get some writing done, I could actually envision myself with that device doing that work. And I don't put my phone to my face that's not true. I do on occasion, but I don't do this a lot. I normally have a headset in, and if you are in that mindset where you're just, you know, maybe have 1, 2, 3 sets of headphones and you're using that all day, the idea of the phone being something that you have to put up to your face becomes less of an issue. And then it becomes a productivity tool that is capable of just having more real estate. I do not like doing email on my phone. I just really find the screen size to be too small to really just take in email, especially since my email tends to come in, they tend to be longer messages. Just being able to have the real estate to see the message along with what you're writing, I just need that. And so I can see a use case for that in that way.
think about this use case, and this is where it kind of jumped out at me. Think about every Zoom call or team meeting that you've been on as of late, and you've taken it on your phone. You've got this little tiny screen, and if somebody shares something, you go blind trying to read it. But if you have a device like this, you flip it open, now you have a lot more real estate. And it's similar in size and basic layout to the most popular Android tablet that was ever made, which was the Nexus 7. And the Nexus 7 is a very comfortable device to use.
Rest in peace, Nexus 7.
Look, poor guy.
Oh, I love that Nexus 7.
I apologize. It's not the Fold. The Fold is the one I envision because you're talking and I'm like, no.
Opens
I'm talking
this,
about
or
the
opens
Flip.
this way.
Yeah, the one that
Yeah.
opened this way. Yes, that I can see. I'm waiting for
Well,
that one. I think you were talking of the one that closed the other
Yeah.
way, and I was like, that's
Well,
the one I
let-
don't understand.
Okay,
We'll get to
there.
that
We'll get there.
because you're
'Cause I
not
could see
the
myself
audience.
buying
for
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not the audience for that one.
That is true.
Neither am I.
not the audience.
But
the
I know
Flip
who
is
the audience
Fold.
is.
The Fold instead. No. The Fold. I have fallen in love
Mhm.
with that device. I think that will be. If Apple comes with a thing like that, I will buy it immediately because then I will be able to replace two devices for one. I will replace this phone and the iPad Mini and carry now one device instead of two. That one was incredible. Sorry, you were talking and I was like, no, what he's saying doesn't match the image on my mind.
Yeah,
Like when-
yeah, one opens this way, one opens
Yeah.
this way. You know,
one who opened like
when,
a
when they
book,
get the
that's
one that
I want.
unrolls, then we've moved to a whole new level.
Or just a purely glass, right? The ones that are completely translucent or transparent.
Now-
So the only minor. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there are some things that worry me about this device still to this day.
Let's do it.
Waterproofing.
IPX8.
It's
X8.
IPX8,
Come on.
which means, okay, you can sneeze on it, you can take a little bit of a drizzle, but that's about it. I mean, now, granted, it's an engineering marvel that they were even able to get to IPX8 with something that has two different screens and a hinge in the middle. But that said, you're not taking it in the bathtub with you. I wouldn't recommend it. So that's one thing in my book. The second thing, again, is I'm just not convinced that it's durable enough yet to be able to survive everyday heavy use by users. I mean, think about the number of times you pull out your phone during the course of the day. Well, now take that and be the number of times that you're opening and closing that screen. It's repetitive. It's going to have wear and tear. You're going to get dust in the joints. You're going to get dirt in the joints. This is going to happen. And the reviews that I've read, the long-term ones around the Fold 2, have talked about those types of things, the wear and tear on this type of a motion device. It's always been a concern. A moving part breaks. And when this sucker breaks, I mean, we're not talking a $400 device or a $300 device. This is big money when this thing breaks. So how well it holds together will be very interesting. But again, if we think about this market, if somebody's got this tucked into their Bill Blass vest, in their 3-piece suit, it's probably not going to take that wear and tear. But I wouldn't take it to the beach.
And remember that a lot of the executives, I happen to work with a lot of executives who are completely mobile, where they no longer work on a desktop. They're doing everything on their phone. And so to spend this money on a high-end phone like this is actually not that unreasonable if they're not going to have any other device.
True.
Correct.
Because the cost is consumed in I don't know, added into that particular that pricing. So if you're not going to buy a laptop, if you're not going to buy another set of peripherals for that laptop and everything else, it ends up.
Do you know, they didn't mention this. Matter of fact, they didn't say it anywhere. Do you know if it supports DeX?
I do not know, but I can only imagine it will, right?
And see,
I
to
didn't
me,
hear anything, but I imagine
and that I have to look and find out, because that, to me, that's the winner right there. If this thing supports DeX out of the box and you can open it up and run DeX in that open tablet configuration, and then take this thing and drop it into a dock with a screen, now you have the pocket computer you've always wanted, because it has all the form factors that you could use or need. If you're on an airplane and you open that thing up and start working, you got it made. You don't have to check this in your luggage. You don't have any of that other challenge. So there's a lot of potential use cases for this.
It looks like it does support DeX.
It does support DeX,
Then to me, that's a given. Yeah, that to me is the win then. Because if you take those executives and you say, look, you don't need to buy a laptop or anything else. We'll just give you a dock and a monitor, keyboard, mouse where you can plug in, and you're just going to work just the same way you were working before. Text messages and everything else are going to come right across. That is a huge step in the right direction for this.
Yeah, that really appeals to me. Like that, that whole notion of I'm not worried about where my documents are. I'm not worried about what I've been working on because it's all there and ready for me no matter where I am. And I'm just going to, get to one office. I'm up and running on a screen, go to my next office, up and running on a screen. I think there is a market here. I think they need to probably sell that a little bit more in terms of how that works, because the audience they're going for is high-end executive, absolutely. And there's probably a downstream market for this phone once it does become a little bit more affordable that will be really ripe for having this kind of mobility and capability, especially as more companies go to hybrid and you do have to change context in terms of working modality. And I think there's a really great opportunity here. Okay, I want us to move on to the Z Flip 3 and answer Augusta's questions around who this is for. So they move from the Fold 3 to the Flip 3. Who is it for, Art?
This is for the influencer crowd. If you look at the way this device is designed, it's packaged, the messaging started with it. They used BTS to do a custom music number to promote it. It is all around the influencer and social media market. It has that flex position where you can sit it on a table and actually take pictures using that upright, the selfie cam, which we didn't talk about with the Fold, but I believe both of them have the invisible selfie cams, which is fascinating. I don't know that it's necessarily critical, but it's a capability. But just the fact that they spent time talking about how you can set this thing up to take pictures of your group and be in your group pictures, that's exactly what this thing is designed for, is that audience of people who want that social interaction. They are trying to generate content. They are content creators, not editors. And they are going through and just, recording. And it's a phone that's designed to be seen, which is ironic because it's the smallest phone of the group, but it is definitely a phone to be seen. And I can absolutely believe that going out and that action of flipping that phone open will get it noticed. I mean, opening something like a book is one thing. That looks almost kind of geeky, but that semi-nostalgia of flipping that phone open and being able to do things with it, I think there's definitely an interest to it. They talked about the customization of the colors and the visual design, and the fact that there's a larger back screen on it. So there is still a large number of things that you can do with the phone without even opening it, which I found fascinating too. So yeah, this is the TikTok Instagram phone in my book.
Yeah, there's definitely a crowd that there will be no nostalgia because they won't remember the Motorola Razr.
That's true.
It'll be lost on them, and that's okay. There's nothing
It'll be retro.
About that. It will definitely be retro. Yes, but it definitely made me think of that when I saw it. I was like, oh gosh, that's the Motorola Razr in today's version of it. Yep. And I also love that they took another play out of Apple's playbook, which is that they were like, oh, and you can use your watch to basically take the picture. Yep. They just took Android's built-in functionality and probably refined it a little bit and then made it their own innovation. And so that was very interesting to see. I actually like this phone, and quite honestly, if I had the cash laying around to just buy the Samsung Z Fold 3, and that was my weekday driver, I would absolutely get the Z Flip 3 as my weekend phone. It just makes so much sense.
It is definitely much more pocket friendly, if that's a phrase. It is definitely a more comfortable device than even, I would say, compare it to an S21. Just that compact form factor has a lot going for it. I like a lot of those aspects of it. I like the fact that they're really focusing this device on what it should be and who it's for, not that it can solve all needs for all people.
Good. I can respect that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would be kind of taken aback by an executive in a 3-piece suit who pulls out a flip. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're trying to be cool, but not my kind of device. But I absolutely can see people using it. I think,
yeah, they'd have to bring it
will
down
be
to a
successful.
smaller size. Yes, absolutely, I think so.
Well-
but they would need to make it a smaller size when it's in that wallet, for configuration, in the folded configuration.
this
It's
will
a
be
little bit chunky.
the 3 versions on these. I think are Samsung's way of coming back and saying, yes, we can make these things last. I think the 4 and the 5, we're going to see them do a heavy push to make them thinner. They've got to get closer back to the thickness of a standard phone or a phone and a half. Having basically 2 phones layered together in your pocket is a lot of weight. And I was talking to a friend of mine online, and the first thing she said was, half of my stuff doesn't have pockets to begin with. Where am I going to put it? So, but the fact that it is much more compact lends itself to being able to do this. So, like I said, it definitely has a market. I think it's going to be very successful. Honestly, I think it'll be extremely successful in Korea. I don't know if it's going to be as successful here in the States.
Well, again, it has the IPX8 rating, which is detrimental to me. I can think of my own younger days. If I'm out at a bar or a club, I go to the bathroom, I flip out my phone, and the first time it drops in the toilet, it's gone. It's going to be that is not tenable to me. I would never. No.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I would not be surprised if the next generation of this has an even larger screen on the back. I think they're going to get it to the point where they don't need to open the phone unless they absolutely have to open the phone. So to be able to do things like control music and you can take pictures now. They showed shooting video with that, which looked a little awkward, but you could probably manage it. But
yeah, I thought you could manage music and read text message and even respond text message on that device.
Yeah, like I said, it's an influencer device in my book.
Yeah, my bigger concerns are actually the ratio on the phone, basically the length of the phone when you flip it open. I'm curious about what the sizes are going to be, because again, if you're an influencer, you're worried about are these sizings for YouTube Shorts or for Instagram Reels or for YouTube? Those image specs are really important, and it's recording for those devices. And then if it looks weird on the phone screen, and so they're also having to work with those components as well, is figuring out, okay, what is the image going to look like in terms of its representation on the apps that you're going to see it.
Now, if they're using the standard Samsung camera software that they've been using through the latest versions of their phones, there's a lot that they can do. There's a lot that they can do, just direct creation. But they didn't talk about editing and content creation with this device, which I thought was interesting. They talked about recording it. They talked about the experience of using it, but they didn't really talk about content production, which they had talked about with the S21s.
Yeah, they focused on consumer activities, and then they focused on the productivity components, and they really left out that, even though it seemed like the glaring reason why they created that phone. So, it's weird, but
the price point on this, if I remember correctly, is about $1,000 phone. So you figure with carrier and discounts and things like that, it's reasonable. It's reasonable for that targeted audience. I look at these, and again, these are things that there's a specific audience who's going to like these, but I don't think either one of these are general consumption devices.
Right. Okay, so we already talked about the S Pen. They've made some modifications to the S Pen. And so rubberized tip, some shock absorption, and obviously it works really well with supposedly all of these new devices, right? Is it working across all of these new devices?
It should, yeah. I mean, there's nothing about it that would prevent it. I'm curious to see, because I didn't see anything on the site, nor did I see anything in their messaging that said it was sold independently. They made changes to it to support the Fold, but there was nothing, because there had been talk about the S Pen Pro before the event, and they didn't talk anything about that. So I'm curious to see if that actually becomes a thing because when you have ones like the S21, it doesn't come with a pen. You buy the pen separate. So, and S Pens work across all the devices. I can use the same one on my Chromebook, my phone, and my tablet, which is a wonderful thing. That means I will invest in a better S Pen because I know the experience is going to be better, especially if I'm doing digital inking. So they've made some nice changes to it. They've made some nice improvements. I will be very curious to get my hands on one and see how it feels. The spring worries me just a hair because it sounds to me like the end might feel squishy, but we'll find out.
Yeah. Okay. So then we have the accessory of the accessory event, and so we get the Galaxy Buds 2, and so they decided to announce this in the lineup, and I think it was kind of just a toss in because they could, and so they decided to announce the Galaxy Buds 2, and this is a graduation from, I think, the Live and the Galaxy Buds. What was the original? It was Galaxy Buds Live. Mm-hmm. And now the Buds 2. I can't remember if there's one.
No, basically what they've done is they've taken a lot of the functionality that was available in the Pros and they brought it down to the Buds 2, things like the active noise canceling and that sort, to make it more available at a better price point, which makes perfect sense to me. I mean, it doesn't have all the same functionality, but it does have some. And you're right. To me, this felt like, oh, nuts, we've got an extra 10 minutes to fill. What do we have laying around? Oh, we got these new earbuds. Okay, let's put those in. So yeah, it didn't feel like it completely jived with the overall messaging. They've got some new colors in the design, so the people like that styling. The active noise canceling, I think, is probably the biggest win with this. The fact that you can actually use that, and and the ambient sound as well, which was carried down from the Pros, so that you could, these people do nothing but drink coffee. Did you notice that every one of these things started with them either going for coffee or being with a barista or going? Not that I'm faulting them. I'm just saying it's a bit of a theme. But this is where talking about that. Don't
spill the coffee on your Flipper the Flow.
No, do not. It is not coffee proof by any stretch of the imagination. But the ambient sound, I think, is a big win. And the reason why I say that has absolutely nothing to do with earbuds. It has to do with the fact that one of my favorite sets of headphones now are bone conducting, not the ones I have on right now, but they go over the ear and they conduct through the bones in your jaw rather than into your ears. So they give you the ability to hear what's around you. And if you've used good noise you've got a set there. I've got my set right here too. If you've used good noise canceling earbuds, you realize how much it blocks out the world. Well, yeah, we all got them. So this type of a thing, offering that within the earbuds themselves, goes a long way of reconnecting you to the world. And if you're using this is where it does kind of come back full circle. If you're using these in a health environment or a fitness environment, you're out for a run or a bike ride or something like that, you don't want to be shut off from the world. You still want to know what's going on so that you don't have something bad happen. And this functionality provided.
Yeah. So I found...
Now I'm curious to go back and check if these support my wife. If these support the ambient sound without the phone. I don't know if they do or not. So if I go and I've got my watch with LTE, do I still have ambient sound control or not? I don't think that's the case. I think it's dependent on the phone, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest questions here, is that I wanted to figure out what the ambient noise detection capabilities were here, so that if I am out with them, because they really have everything I want. I was actually very displeased with the Galaxy Buds. The Pixel Buds 2. They've been failing on every mark for me over the course of ownership. And so I've been really disappointed with those. I really had high hopes. And so I still use them. They're my daily drivers for listening, but I find myself having to swap them out for something else just because they fail so many times in so many what should be normal situations where any other device that wasn't so software dependent. And again, I'm using the Pixel Buds 2 with a Galaxy with a Google Pixel 5G 5G, right? So the Pixel 5 5G and the Pixel Buds 2, really, I should have a seamless experience, and I don't, and so that's been really frustrating for me. Plus, there's not really an ability to switch between devices easily, and so the Buds 2 here are giving you this auto switch feature. I'm really curious about how it's going to work. Is that Samsung device only, and most likely for now, and then it'll probably move on to others as they get better with that technology. The active noise cancellation and this ambient noise detection is great. Its sizing, it looks really sleek. It looks like it fits inside your ears. That's the one thing I do like about the Pixel Buds 2, is that they fit into your ears, and they are basically streamlined. They go right into your ears, and there's no worry about something touching your ears and then them falling out. So I really like them, and they're probably going to be my next headphones if that active noise cancellation is really going to be for safety purposes. I don't want to be on my bike or running and not be able to hear sound around me. So
yeah, that's a big deal in my book. And then, like I said, that's the reason why I got the bone conducting ones, because it does provide you that accessibility. There was one thing, just to backtrack a little bit, about the Fold, and I believe it's the Flip too, I'm not sure, that we didn't talk about. There's no charger in the box. They're shipping them without the chargers. This is the same thing as taking away the headphone jack, people. Okay, I get it. This is me up on a short soapbox. I get it. I understand we're supposed to have. It's a 25-watt charger. How many people have 25-watt chargers laying around at home? That's where I get the hang up with this. It's not like it's a 1-amp charger. This is a heavy-duty one, and you have to buy it. Now, here's the flip around, and I'll. This is the funny part. If you pre-order, they will give you a charger. They will give you a cable, and they'll give you, I think they give you earbuds too as part of the pre-order package. So they're like, oh, if you order early, we'll give you a charger. But if you order regular time, you got to get the charger on your own. I get it, but it doesn't mean I got to like it.
They want to make those. They want to make those pre-sales. They want to make their the pre-sales for marketing purposes usable. So they want the statistics. Augusto, you were going to say?
Sorry, I was going to say, after all the noise they make, after Apple removed theirs, really, Samsung, really?
I think this is across the board. The industry is making
it is, and it's fine. Except that you came as a company and make such a noise that we will never do that to people. And well, here you are.
Well, but see, here's where I think it's a bad decision then, because immediately what I do is I go out and I buy a 63-watt charger with dual USB-C ports on it, something that Samsung does not offer as a product. So not only are they, quote, saving a little money, but they're not making the sale of the device that they want me to buy anyway, because I'm going to buy something better than that for roughly the same price as what it would come out the door. So I don't think they're gaining anything. I don't think they're helping themselves in any way, aside from the whole, we're keeping down the quantity of this. Like I said, how many people got 25-watt chargers laying around? So I don't know.
Yeah. And
to me, it's a little burr under the saddle.
Back to the Buds 2, though. They come in 4 colors. We have olive, lavender, graphite, and white. And so that's where we are there. And if I understood it correctly, all of them will be regularly available as of August 27th. Do I have that right or wrong?
Yes.
They're all in pre-order.
Everything. Yeah, the dates on everything show August 27th. If you pre-order it and you pay extra for shipping, the odds are pretty good you could get it by the 27th. Most everything is showing delivery around September 2nd. So it's going to be very end of August, very beginning of September, assuming that other things don't happen. So
yeah,
we'll see when they get
folks. Yeah, just so folks are aware, it's the Galaxy Watch 4 that is the one without the bezel, right?
The Watch 4,
or are there 2 versions?
No, the Watch 4, there's 2 versions. The Watch 4 has no bezel. The Watch 4 Classic does.
Right.
If you
I
then
kept
take
saying
it down
active,
another notch,
but I was wrong. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's basically what the Active was. It has it's a touchscreen around the outer edge to give you the same bezel type of
Right.
effect.
Right.
There are two
There's a
thicknesses of watch. There's
Yeah,
a
so there's a 40
42
millimeter.
and a 46 millimeter.
So it's 40. It's 40 millimeters
Is
and
it
a
40 or
44.
42? I can't remember.
It's
Okay.
it's 40 millimeter and a 44 millimeter, and they come in
Okay.
black, green, and silver on the 44 millimeter version, and then black, pink, and silver on the 40 millimeter version. And so I would get the 40 millimeter silver just in case anybody's looking to buy me a gift. No, that is absolutely
I have to
perfect,
say,
ideal for me.
The styling they've got on the Active Watch or on the Galaxy Watch 4, not the classic with the bezel, but without the bezel, the styling is beautiful. They've done an excellent job. They've got a fair number of bands out now that they're providing. Their bands are expensive, but then again, they're Samsung bands. So I think we're going to see the aftermarket on this kick in real quick. I would love to see those Galaxy 4 watches with steel bands, color matched. I think they would be just gorgeous devices. I mean, you're looking at almost something along the lines of a Movado style watch. I mean, they are very nicely designed. The classic is truly that. It's a solid. I got the stainless steel with a steel gray band on it, and I think it's going to look sharp, and I think it's going to be well put together and well resolved. They've done a good job. They've done a very good job. If I were Fossil, if I were anybody else producing Wear OS watches, I would be very nervous right now, because that means that I have to step up my game. Yeah.
I want a
really
metal band. Yeah, I want a metal band. I want a silver watch, and so I think this Galaxy Watch 4 in the 40 millimeter silver is just perfect looking. And again, I'm still crossing my fingers, holding out that Google will announce a Pixel Watch. But since it is likely not going to happen, it seems like this will become my next watch, and I'm looking forward to it.
The only thing that disappointed me truly was the lack of Mystic Bronze as a color option. I know it's nitpicky, but
no.
For the device that I have,
mine is space gray,
I like that continuity. I mean, even down to it's hard to see on here. Even my tablet's the Mystic Bronze style. And yes, some people go, oh, it's Mystic Bronze, it's rose gold, it's whatever. It's consistent. And they didn't even have that as part of that. So their color scheming is a little iffy. But like I said, this looks like to be a significantly properly engineered device. To go along with this, though, one of the common articles that I've been seeing over the past day or so has been the comparisons of the Fold 3 to the Pixel 6. That these two are going to be head to head. Can I be honest and say that these two have nothing to do with each other? They are totally different devices, total different configurations, total different target audiences.
Target markets.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't see it at all.
If bloggers out there, if you're spending your time writing this, it ain't worth the clicks, because you're not on target. Trust me. So,
all right. So as we come to the end of the Galaxy Unpacked event, any final comments before we close out?
I think it was a really good event for Samsung. I think it was one of those that they got their message across. There was no surprises. There was no shocks. There was no, why didn't they do this after the fact? I haven't seen any, tremors crossing the earth over what they did or did not release. It was a good, even keel type of thing. They went out of their way to put the ball back in Apple's court and Google's court when it comes to flagship phones and watches. So now Apple's got to come to the table. When is the Apple event coming up? When's their next event? I think there's one coming up. October?
It's sometime in September. But
September, October. Okay.
September. Yeah, September should be phone. It's traditionally phones, and then there is a rumor that in October there is going to be another one for MacBooks.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what their response is to this. So,
all right. Well, Thank you, Art, for joining us here on this special commentary episode. How can folks keep up to date with you and what you've got going out on the interwebs?
Best thing to do, come on over to the ideapump.com and just go ideapump.com/follow me, because apparently I'm all over the place. So between podcasts, videos, writing, and things like that, there's someplace you can find me. If you have questions or you disagree with me totally, that's the place to come get me.
Fantastic. So theideapump.com/follow me. Thank you, Art, for joining us here as our Samsung aficionado,
guys.
as always. All right. We'll see
My
you
pleasure.
soon.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson.
All right. Thank you, Augusto, for putting together the show and making it happen every week.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure as always.
Fantastic. All right. We have come to the close of this special commentary episode. Our normal show is usually on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that's when we cover the productivity and related technology news headlines of the week. And so, again, thanks to Augusto Pinaud for joining me this and every Monday for Anything But Idle. And if this is your first time watching the live stream, make sure you click the subscribe button so that you can get notified when we do go live. If you're listening to the podcast afterward and you're not a subscriber to the podcast, feel free to follow in the Apple Podcasts lingo or subscribe in the everybody else lingo to the podcast. You can do that by going to anythingbutidle.com, clicking on subscribe or follow, and following the instructions to do so. It's free, and you just get the episodes downloaded when we put them out. If you've enjoyed this episode, feel free to click the thumbs up icon also on YouTube. That just helps us make new personal productivity friends. And so thank you for doing that. With that, we will see you all next time on Anything But Idle. Here's to your productive life.